Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. This morning, Jake Matthews, it was Field Yates, I believe, broke the news. Restructured his contract, opened up about $7.1 million in cap space. I haven't checked the math, but the Falcons, I think, had coming into the season $10 million or something. They had a good amount of change. It wasn't like they were one of those teams with $1-2 million. So now they're probably at like somewhere in between $15 to $20 million in cap space.
I think they had only like a few million, so I think they're around 10 now. Last time I checked on.
I don't think that's right, but it doesn't matter. Regardless, they have money to spend now. They have money to spend now. Is this what? Why is this move made right now? Is there a move coming? I know people are immediately going to start thinking quarterback. Then people are going to start thinking offensive line, but offensive line makes no sense to me because you basically have your 5 starters. That's not going to change. Defensive line, pass rusher, something like that. Why is this move made today? Why did they do it today? It is a little bit puzzling if they aren't going to make some sort of move. Maybe it's a linebacker. I don't know.
Yeah, I did just check. It's about 10 million. They've got 10 million right now. And I think the most likely would be a starting caliber linebacker. We just saw Troy Anderson's on the IL. He's seemingly out for the rest of the season. Nate Lehman came in and gave you a lot of great production, in my opinion, against the Packers. He got the start. Troy Anderson dealt with a concussion. He came in for Troy Anderson last week against the Lions and played pretty good from what I've seen. So I don't know how much faith you could really put into an undrafted free agent over the sample size of a full season. But this small sample size, he's been a more than adequate reserve player, which in my hand up, I did not think that he was going to do that, but he's been more than fine. I honestly would be fine, with him starting for the rest of the year because the free agent market, let's put a trade aside. The free agent market doesn't have much of anything in terms of off-ball linebacker, starting caliber linebacker. Some Falcons fans may say Rashaan Evans, but I think I speak for most people who watch Falcons games more than just from a surface level, that Rashaan Evans is probably not even better than Nate Lehman. But, a lot of people are going to look to the trade market. I've seen Danielle Hunter's name pop up several times. He's a defensive end, edge defender in Minnesota, LSU alum, go Tigers. And he's a beast. He's an animal. He's a premier pass rusher in this league. The Vikings seemingly are going to go to a total rebuild. They got a new regime in place, a new GM, Kirk Cousins is in the final year of his deal. It doesn't seem like they're going to have him back. So they'll be in kind of quarterback purgatory until they figure that out. And Danielle Hunter's in the last year of his contract. This isn't baseball, but, it has happened on occasion where a team, instead of letting a guy hit free agency and walk for nothing, they trade him and recoup some draft compensation. The reason why it doesn't happen in the NFL a lot is because of compensatory picks. So basically, if you lose more high-level free agents than you sign, you'll get some sort of compensation back. That's why it doesn't happen as much in the NFL. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the chances of it happening are not likely. Yeah, to me, I would have to guess a off-ball linebacker. Lael Collins, another LSU Tiger. He just passed his physical. He was most recently with the Bengals for depth purposes, I guess. I don't really know. There's no obvious place other than off-ball linebacker, and the free agents aren't that inspiring. Now, the trade market might offer something, but off the top of my head, I can't really think of any team that just has a surplus of off-ball linebackers that they'd be willing to part ways with. But if I had to guess, that's what it would be. Getting a starting caliber linebacker.
I also just don't think a lot of teams after week 3 are looking to trade players. Even teams that are 0-3 like the Vikings. Like, yes, Danielle Hunter in the right now would be awesome, but if they're going to trade Danielle Hunter, it's not going to be after 3 weeks. First of all, the Vikings, they're 0-3, and last year they were the luckiest team in football. You could look at them this year and be like, they're the unluckiest team in football. Like, Justin Jefferson doesn't reach for the pylons against the Eagles. They might win that game. They just lost a shootout with the Chargers, and they lost in week 1 to Tampa by 3 points. So they've lost 3 games that they easily could have won all 3. I don't think the Vikings are looking at things right now like, oh, we need to blow this up. So the Danielle Hunter thing, maybe in like closer to the trade deadline, that's a legitimate conversation that other teams are having, and maybe the Falcons are involved in that. But right now, there's no way the Vikings, with Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and that offense, the way that it's playing. Also, if you think back to, I think it was like maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the Vikings actually did sell off some of their pieces and they were 0-5. And then after they sold off their pieces, they went and won like 8 of their next 9 games and were right in the middle of the playoff race and then ended up not making it by like half a game. So just from that perspective and the fact that it's only 3 weeks and the Vikings roster isn't terrible, they could easily be 2-1, 3-0, or at least 1-2. There's no way Danielle Hunter is getting traded right now. So for people just thinking that, I'll pretty much nix that. Lael Collins is an interesting name to keep an eye on. You talk about backups. Obviously, the Falcons reserves have been disgusting. Like if we actually had to rely on them, it would be even worse than it has been. I have a hard time believing they're already giving up on Caleb McGarry though, and that seems more like a starting offensive lineman that you're trying to bring in. Like if Caleb McGarry was hurt or something like that, that would make a lot of sense. So unless something arises there where we find out someone on the offensive line is injured, I have a hard time believing that. To me, it has to be an all linebacker. And since you confirmed the cap space, they needed a little bit of money. It makes sense. But like I said, I mean, and we talked about it yesterday when we heard the news that it was likely that Troy Anderson was going to be out for the season. Like Nate Landman was really good in week 2. So like, I feel pretty confident in him starting almost just as much as I do Troy Anderson starting. So I really don't think they need a starting linebacker. Now, obviously I expect them to get a depth piece, but did they need to do this to get a depth piece? Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. But it's hard to imagine anything major this early in the season. There's not free agents or free agents for a reason. Unless you're like a running back and you're Leonard Fournette just waiting for someone to be like, give me a starting job. There's not much out there at any position. And then guys aren't going to be traded after 3 weeks. Like no one's ready to give up the season. Well, maybe the Bears. Maybe the Bears and the Broncos. They might be ready to just ship everyone out of there. Sean Payton included.
Yeah, Sean Payton, good Lord. That's something Falcons fans can hold their hat on. You know, it's a disaster out in Mile High. Denver's a dumpster fire right now. That's good to see because Sean Payton is easily one of the most unlikable guys in football. Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. A linebacker is what I would guess. I saw people saying, hey, Matt Ryan, you know, this is what it would take to get from the Colts. And I almost just banged my head against the wall. I mean, first of all, Matt Ryan's got a noodle arm. He's not coming back. The Jets said no thank you for a reason. And Falcons are giving Desmond Ridder pretty much the entire season to prove he's the guy or not the guy. Give up the Matt Ryan dream. Give it up.
There's only one quarterback on the free agent market that I would even have interest in, and his name's Tom Brady. And I don't think Tom Brady is coming back to the Falcons. If Tom Brady is willing to suit up for the Falcons, okay, bring him in here. Because with this defense and Tom Brady, all of a sudden I would be like, hey, we could do something here. So unless they're having conversations, and how poetic would that be? Tom Brady coming back to the Falcons, winning the Falcons a Super Bowl after stealing one from 2016. But guys, that is the definition of a pipe dream. If that's not happening, forget about the quarterbacks. There's no, like you said, free agents are free agents for a reason. Matt Ryan's a free agent for a reason. Phillip Rivers a free agent for a reason. They're not coming back unless maybe Kyle Shanahan called Matt Ryan after an injury to Brock Purdy. But even then, they have Sam Darnold. So I don't even think they would even go to Matt Ryan in that situation.
And the first call would be Tom Brady.
That's true. That's true. So like, it's just, these guys are free agents for a reason. I don't see an obvious move out there other than just like trying to find some depth at linebacker. That's the only thing that makes sense to me because pass rushers, you're not going to find any. Offensive line, you're not going to start them over what we got. We just got to hope they improve. And quarterback, there's just nothing out there. Coming up after the break, we are going to break down week 5 in the SEC.